Welcome to the third episode of our Elisabeth Revue Corner series commemorating the 20th anniversary of Takarazuka performing Elisabeth. In this episode, we will discuss the 1998 Cosmos Troupe production starring Shizuki Asato as Death and Hanafusa Mari as Elisabeth. With you today are Lela, Elin and Anna. Hello girls, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm great, thank you.
Yes, I'm also fine. Thank you.
So first off, I thought we would talk about our general impressions of this Soragumi troupe production. Anna, what do you think?
Well, personally, this is my absolute favorite production of Elisabeth. Even though the DVD, the recording is very bad. It has too many close-ups and the angles are really strange.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the close-ups can also be like the main reason why I can see the details so much and love like facial expressions and stuff. But I just adore Shizuki Asato as Death, and I think her voice just does everything for me. And just generally, Shizuki Asato as Death and Hanafusa Mari as Elisabeth are my favorite Death and Elisabeth ever. So I'm looking forward to this podcast. I also love Waoyoka, who plays Franz Josef, and also Kosugi Wataru, who plays Lucchini. So it's only golden moments for me.
How about you, Elin?
Well, this is also one of my favorite Elisabeths, one of my favorite productions. And yeah, a lot of it is Sunko singing, which is amazing. Sunko is one of my first loves in Takarazuka. And I think this was my first Takarazuka Elisabeth as well. So yeah, it has stayed with me. And yeah, as Anna said, overall the singing is maybe, not only, but maybe my main reason for liking it so much. It is amazing throughout the whole performance. So
yeah, for me as well. Any imperfections this show may have is all just you don't see it because the singing is just so amazing.
Of course, for me, the camera angles do pose a few issues. I'm going to get into that later, but there are a few moments where I'm thinking, like, why did you choose that camera angle? I have actually studied film and media at university before, so camera angles are kind of my thing. And
this must be your nightmare.
They do.
Because
they
this
do
is horrible.
They do some really strange things. And there are actually a couple of performances where you can't, like smaller roles, that you can't see the entirety of the awesomeness of the Sien's performances due to camera angles being terrible. Yes. They're focusing on the wrong thing, and therefore you, as a viewer, cannot get the full experience of it, which is a bit sad. But in other ways, I can understand why they would make those choices, because it does make it an interesting experience. But you do miss out in other ways.
Like I said, I think one of the reasons I love this so much actually is also because of the camera angles and the choices to have so many close-ups, because you can see the subtle acting in their faces so much more than you like in any other production. At the same time, it also takes away from seeing the wholeness of the stage and the huge numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think medium close-ups would have been better than the extreme close-up kind of thing that they do.
Probably, yeah.
Never mind.
I'm not defending it at all. I'm just saying that it might be a reason that I enjoy it so much.
Yes.
Also.
Yes, absolutely. Let's start talking about the characters then. And first off, let's talk about Death, which is Shizuki Asato, Zunko. And I know we all have many opinions about this. So who would like to go first? Maybe Anna again.
Should I go first? Oh, well, this was the third production of Elisabeth I saw on DVD. And I think this was the one where I really, really fell in love with the show, because I was, and like Elin said, Zunko was Shizuki Asato was one of my first loves as well, because of this role, because she just nailed it for me in every sense. And from the first time I heard her voice in this, I'm just gonna go on about her voice now. Bear with me. You know, it was just the most perfect thing ever to like come out of anyone's mouth. And the way she sings with such ease, and it's just such a part of her. You don't see her struggle at all, and she growls, and she just takes all the high notes with superb power, and just it's like almost like an arrow or something, just like piercing through you. And I love her singing voice, and I also love her makeup. I think she looks amazing. And although the promo pictures for this one, and I'm not sure, but I think the first performances, or like the earliest ones, she had like a super fluffy wig. She looked like an 80s punk rock, like not punk rocker, but poodle rock. It was terrible. And all the promo pictures and the program have the same ugly wig, sorry, but it's really terrible. But in the DVD, it's completely different. It's more flat, and it's more silvery purple. And I'm so happy they changed that, because that makes her look amazing. And her eye makeup is also, I adore it so much. And so just having her there and doing her thing is just making the whole show for me, basically. And I also think, I'm just gonna go all the way here, like all the clothes they've made for her, they fit her so well. Maybe they wouldn't have fit someone else, I don't know, but for her they're perfect, most of them. The colors and the way they just make her look taller and just so magnificent is amazing. And also an important thing, the acting, of course, and the way she portrays the role of death. We talked about Ichiro Maki in the first episode, and I think Shizuki Asato's interpretation of the role is a little bit similar. It's pretty cold and expressionless, but not as expressionless as Ichiro Maki's, I think. I just think she does a great job. Sometimes some scenes, I think she's also a little too, like, she lacks emotion a little bit too much, but I don't care. It just all the other scenes make up for it, and all the subtle details that also might be because of the close-ups. I adore them. We talked about that also in the first episode, or I did, the importance of the reaction Death has when he's supposed to fall in love with her at the beginning of the song, Aitushi no Rondo. And I think she does that really well, but really subtle. Like, she just freezes and stares her down. And you can see, this is a real small detail, but I don't even think it's intentional, but it looks so good. She swallows a tiny bit before she starts to sing. And I love it so much. It just gives me like some sort of feeling that she's just like a little gulp, like that's also probably because of the close-ups. So I have that to thank for some things I do love. But I'm just gonna stop this now and let someone else talk about her. I love this. I love her.
Eileen, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I can only agree on the singing part. Like, in my notes, I just written Tsunko singing 5 hearts. So I think that says pretty much everything. Like, yes, I think Anna said it all pretty much.
I'm sorry.
Singing is pretty much flawless. No, that's fine. I agree with everything you said. And funny thing, I also agree as for her portrayal of that. I mentioned in the previous episode about Hoshi Gumi's production that I like my deaths cold, like as personal wise, a cold death, and she is really cold. Tsunko's really cold, and sometimes I find her though to be a bit like I lack a bit of emotion. Maybe it's not that there aren't any emotions, because there are emotions there, but as Anna said, I sometimes find her like too expressionless, and just you can be cold but still have all these cold emotions. I don't know if that makes sense, but But yeah, I sometimes lack a bit of emotion. But yes, and I said, like, the singing makes up for it. And she's just such a huge, like, she has this presence on stage. It just works really well, and yeah. And that some other productions, some other deaths don't have that presence, I think, and I really, really like that here.
She's sexy. She's really sexy. Yeah. That's a good, like, I think death should be sexy, alluring for people to come join him in the death realm.
I think it's okay. I sort of want a bit more sexiness, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
but still, amazing portrayal. And actually, one of my, I don't know if I should talk about this here, one of my favorite moments, like, where you actually do get a lot of emotion, is the scene where Elisabeth has just handed Franz Josef the ultimatum, you have to choose between me or your mom. Mm-hmm. And Death comes into her room and tries to seduce her, and I absolutely love that scene, because you can see, like, Death is so sure of himself at that point. Yeah. He's like, I am totally, like, I am getting her now. This is where it ends. And I love that, because you can sort of see it in her face, and there's, like, a lot of emotion going on there. So for me, that was a nice scene in this production.
Yeah, she comes out of the room just going, "What just happened? What's going on?"
Yeah, that's
she turned me down.
When she just shuts the door behind her and she leans against it with this pained expression on her face.
I always think that's a bit funny in the Circa production, like, maybe more funny than anything else, but it's nice. But also, before that, great scene.
So my opinion about Junko as Death is that she is amazing and fantastic and so good looking. And the expression on her face through a lot of the play is basically, you are nothing. And I think that is fantastic. And also, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but Junko always hits all of the cues, like when she raises the sword in the beginning and there's a flash of lightning, or the sound of thunder anyway, it's spot on. And then in the Saigo no Dansu scene, when there is the crash of breaking glass, that is also spot on. So all of those little bits where you need to
be on cue.
Yeah, be on cue. She is actually on cue. It feels as though all of those things were made for her. I know that's not the case, but because it's so perfect, it feels as though this was the production that it was actually meant for. And I'm comparing it a little bit to Meteors, and Meteor is slightly off. I don't want to criticize Meteor in any way, of course, but Junko does it better. I apologize. But yeah.
You can't be perfect.
Are you sure?
Everybody has small things.
Are you sure Meteor can't be perfect? Because, yeah. Anyway, so going to talk about Junko now. So she is very forceful as Death and also very confident. And when she looks at Elisabeth for the first time, she has this unreadable expression, which I think is really good, because you're not actually supposed to understand Death's emotions, because he hasn't really had emotions like this before. So not being able to actually see what's going on inside him is actually quite cool, in my opinion.
Just that you see that something's happening.
Yeah. But you're not quite sure what. But then in the song he tells you what just happened to him, and I think that's really good. Yeah. And the milk song, growly Death, ready for a second go at getting what he wants. It's so good.
Oh God, yes.
And another fantastic Junko Death moment is when he meets the little Rudolph in the second act. And he's not really interested. It's just like, well, I guess, this kid, it's Elisabeth's kid. I might need him. I'll just make friends. But he's not really interested. And then Rudolph says, oh, yesterday I killed a cat. And he just, say what now?
It's always so much fun to see, like, the different Death's expression at that line.
Yeah.
Because everybody reacts differently.
Yeah. So Junko's reaction is, because she's got her back turned, and then she just goes, what was that?
Turns
Like,
around,
just
yeah.
turns around. It's fantastic. And yes, Zunko growling. I mean, it happens in a lot of the songs, and it just suits Death really well, in my opinion. There are also there is one thing. Like, I only have one thing to criticize with Zunko's Death performance, like the entire thing. I only have one thing to criticize, and that is in the scene when Rudolph has committed suicide and Elisabeth is crying over his coffin, and Death turns up, and then Elisabeth offers herself to him, and Death realizes that she doesn't love him. And like, the way Zunko delivers the line, she's not looking at Elisabeth, she's looking out over the audience, and she's saying, "Oh, you still don't love me," but she's looking out over the audience, and and the way she says it as well kind of doesn't make sense to me. But then she saves the whole situation by going off and saying that you can't run towards Death. Like, this is not how it's gonna work out. But she saves the whole situation with that next line. So, I mean, that line is perfect. That's fine. But yeah, it's just a bit weird there when she says that, "Oh, you still don't love me." Oh, yeah. I don't quite understand what she wanted to get at with the facial expression and how she says it and everything. I didn't quite get it.
I actually totally agree with that scene. I think it's a little bit funny, like the way she grabs her and then she just goes like to full like surprise mode, like like it looks up, and it's a little bit over the top.
So weird. She's been this cold, unemotional Death for so long, and then suddenly it's
just like the surprise on her face is a little bit funny.
Yeah.
But she sings it really well though, like the line,
Yeah.
"Mada watashi o aishite wa inai."
Okay,
So that saves a bit of it for me. Also, I can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I love her shinebai when she tells Elisabeth that, "Why don't you die then?"
Mm-hmm.
And she like kind of shinebai, like really. I love how intense it sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it should be creepy. She's telling her to die.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, well, how would I react if I was Elisabeth in that situation? And I'm like, I probably would react exactly like Elisabeth reacted in that scene.
Would you, if you had a sexy Death just standing on the couch next to you, taking off his coat and just flashing his silk shirt?
If it was Meteor Death jumping up on my furniture and stripping, then sure, that would be fine. But I don't think I would do it for any other Death. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm too biased. I'm sorry.
Well, we all have different tastes.
But the last thing I want to say about Zunko Death is that I really love how at the end, when Elisabeth finally holds him, he looks like he's going to cry. And I think it's the sweetest thing. I'm just, oh, so precious.
But I'm just like, when you say that, I feel like the whole emotion of that scene, and I just get all, oh. I love this show so much.
Oh, but let's move on to Hanafusa Mari, who plays Elisabeth. And Hanafusa Mari also played Elisabeth in the very first production of Elisabeth, which we talked about in the first episode of this Revue Corner series. So if you haven't listened to that, listen to that now, and then you can come back to this episode and learn more about Hanafusa Mari. Anyway, there is a difference between her performance in this Elisabeth and her performance in the very first Elisabeth, and I feel as though she matured in herself as a person and as an actress. She matured, and therefore her portrayal in this Elisabeth feels a lot more mature. Her Watashi dake ni, the song that Elisabeth sings about how she wants to be free, and that is after she has married Franz Josef, and her mother-in-law Sophie is trying to teach her how to be a queen or an empress, and is very rough about it, and she feels as though her freedom and her life has been taken away from her, and then she sings this song which is called Watashi dake ni, and I felt as though this song became a lot more mature, a lot deeper. She cried. There were real tears on her cheeks, and there was a lot of emotion in her voice. I don't know. What did you guys think?
Well, I haven't actually seen the 96 production, so I can't really compare, but I agree with Watashi Dakini. I really liked her performance in that, and especially the tears. I thought about that as well. It's like amazing. And as for me, I particularly like her child, Elisabeth as a child. I think she's super childlike and innocent, and she has these like super big eyes and a slightly confused look about her all the time. Like, what is actually going on with my life right now? But she's really cute, I think. And I also do like her singing. Well, I can't compare with the last, like the first production, but I did actually see her in Toho's Elisabeth last year. And, you know, this is obviously like, I don't know how many years later, but I feel like she'd really matured. Like, I like her adult Elisabeth. I liked it so much more now, but because now she is also an adult, you know, she's like, I don't know, 15, 20 years older. So for me, in Takarazuka Productions, she's good, but maybe I like her child Elisabeth more than her adult Elisabeth, I think. But as for now, she was really, really good in the role, like last year, and I think they're doing this year as well. So that was really like an impeccable performance.
Yeah.
Because you're a big fan of the original Elisabeth production,
yes. Yeah.
So you can't help compare, right?
No.
And Hanna Fusamari, she does a really cute Elisabeth as a child. She's a cute little chitlin. Yeah. Another thing that I noticed was that in this production, she doesn't seem as unwilling to shack up with Franz Josef as she does in the Ichiro version of Elisabeth. So I think that happened as well. She decided maybe that her Elisabeth was going to be happier about relationships in general, I guess.
I think it's impressive that she has like a completely different take on Elisabeth just 2 years later. Like, it's the exact same role, but she does it completely differently, and that's hard when you've played a role before, and to just read the script again and then just make something new out of it, trying to see, oh well, what if she was this way? And I think she does that really well. Just as you said, it's almost funny because that's the exact same thing that I was going to say, is that you can feel how much she has matured as an actress and how much sure of herself she feels on stage. And it really translates into her Elisabeth. And as a child, I don't think she is as childish as she was in the 96 version. She feels like a child, but she's more calm, a little bit more quiet, not as super bubbly as in the 96 version. And then also I think she grows old, just like the maturing process throughout the show. So she's just so great at doing that, and that is also so hard, and she is just so young. And yeah, it almost blows me away how good she is and how much emotion she puts into every scene she does. And I said this when we did the 96 version as well, but yeah, like Watashi Dakini, she cries, and you just feel everything that Elisabeth feels. And yeah, I always almost cry when I watch her version of Watashi Dakini, because it's so emotional. And you can see also the change throughout the song, like going from despair in the beginning and then just singing about what she's gonna do, and then how she just gains strength from it, and at the end she's just, no, I'm gonna do this my way. And because she goes through a kind of change in that song, like deciding on how to live her life. And yeah, just like the aging process, I just think she does that so well. In the sense, like all the facial expressions and the way she carries herself, and also the way she, not deepens her voice, but I guess most of them do that, but she just does it so well. It makes it more adult sounding, more like operatic the older she gets. I just adore her. I think she's yeah, she's definitely my favorite Elisabeth ever.
Well, I have to follow up then on what I said in the last podcast, which was about the 96-97 Hoshigumi production, which was that Shiraki Ayaka is my absolute favorite Elisabeth. And I think that she is better than Hanafusa Mari.
Yeah, well, the differences make interesting. I mean,
I'm not saying that Hanafusa Mari isn't
same.
fantastic. Like, she is fantastic. It's just that for me, Elisabeth as a character is not all that interesting, and Shiraki Ayaka made her interesting. She made me understand why Elisabeth might make the choices that she made, and I understood those choices, which I never have in any other production. I've kind of always felt that there was something missing that I didn't. I think it's because I couldn't identify with the choices that she made. And in the Shiraki Ayaka performance, I could identify with her choices. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. So,
well, I can only say that I have barely seen that version also. So I can't really say anything about what I think of her performance. I've seen it, but it was a long time ago. Well, generally, I think since the Takarazuka version isn't really focused on Elisabeth as the original one is, or not as much, I feel like they don't put as much effort in explaining Elisabeth's behavior, because she was, like in the original one, you correct me if I'm wrong here, Yeli, but in the original one, I feel like you dislike her so much more as a person, like Elisabeth. She doesn't seem,
maybe,
I don't know, she seems nicer in the Takarazuka versions in some way. I've only seen the Vienna one, like the DVD version once, but that was my impression. I didn't like her at all. I thought she was like not a good person at all.
That might actually be true, because I also feel like in the Vienna, like Elisabeth is not a really likable character, which
exactly,
which is maybe why I like that version so much. It's like no one is likable here. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's completely. Yeah, I agree with that too. It gives depth to the character. Like being unlikable is also a really good thing sometimes when you can understand the character and where they're coming from. And it's just different ways to do it, I guess. Yeah. I just love Hanafusa Mari, and I just think she's just so regal, but I'm sure Shirakaya is great too. I have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry to ruin your Hanafusa Mari flair there with going to, but Shirakaya is my favorite Elisabeth. Yeah, I'm sorry. But...
well, it's just fun. It's just fun that we have different opinions.
Yeah. But definitely Hanafusa Mari, she is amazing, and she has, especially in this production, if you want to compare it to the last one she did, she has a new emotional depth and a new strength in the role, and I think it's actually amazing that she went in and reinterpreted Elisabeth. I think that takes a lot of strength as an actress to be able to do that. So fantastic.
I love the scene at the asylum.
Yeah.
When, like, the way she delivers the lines to the crazy woman, that if I could, I would change places with you. That's a close up of her face when she does that, and that might help bring like all the emotions like through the screen, because I almost always cry when I see that version of it, because it is so heartbreaking the way she says it, and when she looks at her and her face, and yeah, I love that scene.
I'm going to complain about that later. I'm sorry.
What?
Because the close-up actually makes you unable to focus on Ryo Akino, who plays the crazy lady who's called Windish, and
but they change later. They film her too. Like,
yeah, but they don't. They
like
don't. They focus so much on Elisabeth that Ryo Akino's performance does not get the focus it deserves. So they have a close-up of Hanafusa Mari instead of showing Ryo Akino's performance, and that bugs me because Ryo Akino in that role is so amazing. And
that's the thing. I haven't even thought I haven't even thought about it because I love watching Hana Samari, but I've always thought that I love her performance, Ryo Akino's performance of like the crazy woman. So it hasn't bothered me at all. I just, because I think you see her, like they think they change. You don't see the two of them like during the whole scene, but they don't all only film Hana Sotamari. So you can see her face as well when she.
Yeah, but Akko, she is
completely...
also in the Hoshigumi 96, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So in that version, you can see her whole performance, and it's amazing, amazing, amazing. And the thing is that you don't see, like, there were so many things that I knew was going on, like Akko's facial expression, her entire posture, what she was doing. Like, there were so many things missing that I felt that they could have shown. So
I see.
yeah,
I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
I just enjoy watching her pain so much. I'm just like all the feels of that scene.
So I can understand their choice that they wanted to focus on Hana Fusamari simply because she is the.
It is her scene. It is Elisabeth's scene.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, but that's also a reason to watch the Hoshigumi 96, because you will be able to see the absolutely amazing awesomeness that is Ryo Akino in the role of Windish.
Yeah. Well, only like 2 small things left. Okay, 3. Sorry. One of them is that I love her super coldness when Rudolph sings to her that they are mirror images of each other. She looks cold, and it's so painful to watch, but it makes the scene so much more, it makes the scene better because she's just so cold and not really caring. And I love that scene. And then also at the funeral, I think we talked about that moment when Death says that she doesn't love him yet, so she can't die. But Hana Fusamari's performance throughout that whole scene is also completely heartbreaking. I think the way she just, like, her body language when she moves in, almost like faltering, almost like falling over, walking and singing with broken voice, and when she meets up with Franz Josef there, that's also a completely amazing scene. And also the very last scene when Elisabeth joins with Death when they're all in white, and she sings that it's finally over, all the pain and suffering, and she looks so happy when she says, "Just take me away." And she has this smile on her face and almost tears in her eyes, and many Elisabeth look like a bit sad, but that she smiles there and looks like she's finally free, it also gets me every time. It's just, I want to cry. Also later when she says that, it's over now, and now we have each other's love. Also, like, she smiles all the way through, and I don't know, I just love it. And yeah, so now I'm just not going to say anything else about that.
I was actually thinking, now that you mentioned the coldness with Rudolph, that she has put up a wall for so long. I mean, she's been running from her marriage and her life for a number of years. I mean, since Rudolph was a boy. And she has gotten so used to having her emotional walls to protect her. So even the thought of maybe taking them down in order to protect her son, that scares her so much that she just can't even think the thought that she might do it.
And she's also just grown to be incredibly selfish, because in the beginning she just wanted her own life and control her own life, but it's led to her being completely selfish. And well, she has to pay the price for that later.
Are we ready to move on to Franz Josef?
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry, this is my baby production.
Franz Josef is played by Wow Yorka, and my impression of Wow Yorka as Franz Josef is it's a very, very, very cute Franz Josef. There is a scene when Elisabeth has had an encounter with death. It's actually at the wedding party still, so it's after Saigon no Dansu, and she comes running to him and throws herself at him. And Wow Yorka's Doshitano is almost very giddy, as, oh my god, she's actually throwing herself at me. Oh, it's fantastic kind of thing. Because it feels as though Wow is really in love with Elisabeth. It's like, yeah. And then after that giddy, oh my god, she threw herself at me, he changes into super worried. I feel as though Franz Josef is very cute and caring. Very gentle. Sweet and gentle. What do you guys think?
I adore Wow as well. She is also one of my first loves. Probably my first absolute favorite top star. And this is, yeah, you get to see Hanafusamari and Wow get together a couple of years before they became top stars together, which is a little gem. But yes, Wow. I love her. Generally, I think she's great. It's not my favorite Franz though. I think he's a complete pushover. well, he is a pushover generally, but this Franz feels like such a pushover, and almost like he's a little robot, just like that Sophie controls, and a bit unsure, and just a bit weak. Not at all if I compare it to the 96 version. Like Takane Fubuki, he feels like he's sure of himself, even though he's controlled by Sophie. But Wow just feels completely like, yeah, okay, mom, yes, whatever,
sweet and gentle.
Yeah, well, gentle or just weak. It's fine line. But otherwise, I think she does a completely superb job of growing older. She is so good at changing her voice and like deepening her voice and making it sound like it's an older man. In the beginning, she has this lighter voice, and then she just goes in the end. She's down here. I think that's great, and I think she looks hot. I think she looks great in a mustache. I think you said that, Lala, in the 96 version as well, when she plays one of the rebels. And she looks as good in the mustache in this one. Yeah, I like her, but it's not my favorite interpretation of Franz Josef. But at the funeral, though, you have another close-up, of course. When Sissi walks towards the coffin, you have a close-up of Franz Josef when he watches her. And that face is also so heartbreaking, because it's completely like Kote Rashi. Like he has all the like the walls in place, and like he's stiff and everything, but you see like such deep grief in his eyes when he's watching Sissi, but he's just standing there completely like still and almost like tears in his eyes, and it's just that expression is priceless. I love it.
Yeah, I don't understand how she was holding it together with that look on her face, because I can't.
Exactly.
I can't hold it together when she has that look on her face. God.
But it was exactly that, like the feeling you would get like from a man, a really stiff man who doesn't show emotion but is like completely grief-stricken, That's the exact expression I would imagine a person like that wearing. And Franz Josef and Hanafusamari's Yoru no Boto, it's so tired. Like the scene where they meet again, like when they're old, and Franz just wants to live with her again and tell her to come back. And they sing the song that they're like two boats passing each other in the night, never meeting. The emotion in that song in this version it's so tired, because they're both tired and old, but it's tired in a good way. It's beautiful. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's really they both feel so like tired from like life, and there's a beauty in that. in some way. And yeah, I think I love that scene. The small thing about that scene that I noticed is that they change one line in that scene, like a little bit. I've seen 3 Elisabeths the past few days, and all those 3 times this line has been a bit different. And I just noticed it, and it's a bit funny. And it's when Franz Josef says, "Doesn't matter how long we've been apart, love can overcome any obstacle." And he says something like, "Nannen hanarete sundeite mo." And they change that. So it's sometimes nannen hanarete kurashite mo and nannen hanarete mo. So I'm just like noticed that they changed it. I'm like, aren't you happy with how this sounds? Just a little funny detail. I enjoy her Franz, but it's and I love her performance, but it's not my favorite interpretation as such.
Elin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, I can add that I also like Wow singing a lot, and I agree with Anna that I like her maturing process, like Fran's maturing process. It's really good. And I sort of get the feeling that this Franz Josef is actually afraid of his mom. He's afraid of Sobin. That's why he doesn't take any battles with her, because he just fears his mom. And maybe it was the most noticeable in the first scene when he appears, and she's like, be strong and be cold, and you can sort of see it in Wow's face there that oh my god, please help me, someone.
I got the impression that Franz Josef didn't really want to do everything Sophie told him to, but he was like, I'm gonna do this anyway, I can't go against my mom's wishes, kind of thing.
No, exactly, but I think that's like the case with all Franz Josefs. But I like this Franz Josef, but I am not as harsh in my judgment of this character that I am, like, when it comes to, for example, death and other characters. So, like, yeah, I am. It's pretty much like any Elisabeth I watch, like, oh, Franz Josef, yeah, that was good. So unless they like sing really bad, and Wow doesn't. So yeah, I enjoy her performance.
I don't think there has been even one Franz Josef who sings badly. So
no, right? So. And this goes for like any production, pretty much, like non-Takarazuka as well. I'm like, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the other ones, but Takarazuka, I feel like Franz Josef is a really hard character to make actually interesting, because he's just kind of there and you don't like him, basically, because, well, most of the time you kind of want Cici to be with death for some reason. So Franz Josef is just in the way, but and he's just, he's a pushover.
I don't really dislike Franz as a character either, though. I'm like, no, I don't dislike him. I sort of feel bad for him as well, because I see where he's coming from. Like, he's really stuck. Partly because like maybe his personality and his mom, and just like his title, like his work as an emperor. So, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like, you ship Elisabeth and death.
Yeah,
like, I don't. Very few people that ship her with Franz.
I don't ship Elisabeth and death.
Okay, you're one of them.
Difference in opinion.
But I think I don't really ship her with anyone. It's because I don't really understand why anyone would be interested in her.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, that is totally fine.
So.
I just want her to be happy, and yeah.
I'm just thinking that it's really a mother complex, like they say. Because Franz has a really strong mother, and he gets a really strong and free, like, strong-minded wife. So I think he really does have a mother complex.
But I think it might also be that he falls in love with Elisabeth when she's really, really young. She's like 16 or whatever.
Yes.
And she's been living, growing up in the countryside, and she's like very free-spirited, and I think he likes that. But then that's not gonna continue, when she becomes an empress, and this is not the person she turns out to be. Like, so they sort of like smothers that kind of her personality. Like maybe not he, but he helps as well. But then mostly his mom does, and I think that where it like goes downhill maybe. For the biggest part of the show, I think he still loves her, but she's not like the free-spirited girl that he fell in love with. Maybe.
Let's move on to Lucchini as portrayed by Kozuki Wataru. Elin, what are your opinions about Wataru's Lucchini?
I like her. Kozuki Wataru is not my, like in a lot of other shows, she's not my favorite singer. Sometimes I like her singing, sometimes I don't like it as much. But in this show, I think it's actually pretty good. And I don't know, maybe it's because this character it's not a polished character, so it might just benefit from the fact that her singing is not like super polished and on point at all times. And I think she balances like the crazy part pretty well. I think she's slightly crazy but not over the top. Yeah, and overall I quite like her Lucchini.
I think that this Lucchini seems as though he's having a great time. Wataru's Lucchini is crazy from the get-go, but he seems as though he's hanging out, he's having a nice time, and the only time when he doesn't seem super duper crazy is actually when Zunko hands over the knife, which is with a short drop. So Watakini doesn't act super crazy until he's holding a newspaper where he reads where Elisabeth will be. That's when he goes, ha 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 ha, kind of thing. Like really
that
super.
Is so funny.
Oh my god. But when he actually gets the knife, that's when he seems the most sane. And then
that is so funny because I have thought the exact opposite.
Oh really? Okay.
Yes, like the exact opposite. I've written that as a note. That like I feel like he's not so insane like throughout the show. You don't feel like he's crazy. He feels kind of like he's shikaru shiteru. Like I don't know how to say it. Like he's
like pulling it together.
Yes, like yeah. And then when he gets the knife, he gets the crazy eyes. You know, that's where it's like you see that he's actually insane.
Yeah.
Except from the beginning. Just in the beginning, you feel like he's maybe a little crazy, but throughout the show, I don't feel like he's very crazy.
Yeah, no, but it's a kind of fun crazy, not stab crazy. Just I'm having a good time telling this story kind of crazy. Just yeah.
Well, he is stab crazy in the end.
Yes, that's true.
I think that is maybe why. Yeah, because she sort of keeps like the. I think the crazy part, I have a hard time coping with that sometimes. I just laugh at them because they're doing it so over the top, like a lot of actresses. And I mean, it's hard doing crazy, and you want people to see it, but you also don't want to do it like super over the top. And I think this is why I like Hozuki Wataru throughout the performance, because she's just like she's a bit weird maybe, but not super duper crazy.
There's also so many different ways to portray crazy. I feel like all the Lucchinis you see in Takarazuka productions, they feel crazy, but in different ways.
Just crazy Italian pronunciation. Un grande amore! That was my best Todoroki impression, by the way. Terrible.
Yeah, and like the inflections they say that with as well are like always different. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Un grande amore, un grande amore.
Yeah, I think actually that Daimon's Un grande amore is really good. We'll talk about that another time. Yes.
We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
Yeah.
My last comment about Watakini is that the hairstyle she has is super strange when you see it with the pretty otokoyaku outfit in the otokoyaku dance in the finale. It looks so strange.
I know. It looks so out of place.
Yeah, so weird. Oh god. But I mean, still amusing, but
it fits really well throughout the show, and you don't really think about it until the end.
Yeah.
Like the otokoyaku dance and the actually parade when they walk down the stairs. It's like, that looks really strange. And then she has lipstick on as well. And so, I'm not sure. This Lucchini feels Italian. Like the stereotypical hot-headed Italian. He has this like small bursts of anger and like, I don't know, happiness. He's a bit emotional. And I think that's nice.
Sometimes he seems a bit frustrated even, which I quite like. It's not every Lucchini that seems flustered or frustrated.
And he feels like he's like interested in what's happening. Like the things he's describing and like talking about. He loves watching it like play out, and he's just is into it, which is fun. And I in some ways, even though he's crazy, I feel like this Lucchini is smart. He feels like he's smart, and I don't know. he knows what he's doing in some way. I don't know how to explain it, but he doesn't feel completely crazy until the end. Also, hot in the mustache. Important little thing to get into.
Oh yeah, it's very important.
And then I have the thing about that he doesn't feel so very crazy until he gets the knife, where you can see the eyes going crazy for a moment, and then it goes back, and then he's just there, and until the moment where he stabs her. So yeah, I enjoy her Lucchini immensely. Yes, and that was what I had to say.
All right. Do you want to move on to talking about Rudolph as played by Asami Hikaru?
We can do that. Asami Hikaru as Rudolph. Well, I think this Rudolph, he's really frail. Frail, but not really super emotional on the outside. He has I feel like he has a little bit of a shell, but it's really easily broken. And when it's broken, he breaks completely, That's my general feeling, because he's not if I just compare it to Koji Tatsuki from 96 version, he doesn't look as completely distraught all the time. He's more keeping it together a bit, but then he feels frail. I don't know if you know what I mean, but I love her voice. She has a really unique and powerful voice, and her dance with death right before he commits suicide is also great. I have the feeling that the same with Lucchini, also a bit shikari shiteru. On the outside, at least, he's got a grip on himself on the outside, but really easily broken. Yeah, I like her.
How about you, Elin?
This is funny because I actually have almost the same notes as Anna, just everything she said, pretty much. She said.
Oh.
And I also, not as completely, I don't know, I don't even have words for that, but just shikari.
Yeah.
Such a good word. Doing fine, but there's something not quite right as well. And I also enjoy her singing a lot. I think this Yamiga Hirogaru is probably one of my favorites.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes. Good. Good scene. Great song.
Yeah.
Two very good singers performing it, so
yeah.
I agree with Anna.
When I rewatched this version of Elisabeth now, I couldn't help but think about her as Roxy Hart from Chicago, though. For a moment, I saw Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and it just popped into my mind, and I just realized that both Shizugesado and Asami Hikaru were in Chicago together, and it's just one of these awesome moments when I watched Yamiga Hirogaru, and I just it was nice.
So my opinion of Asami Hikaru as Rudolph is, well, Komme is so beautiful that the rest of us can just give up straight away. There's no point. There's no point even trying. Yeah. And I personally have no complaints about Komme's performance. I think it's really great. Yamiga Hirogaru is super striking. And Death is moving Rudolph around like a puppet. But it still feels as though he has some independence, as though he's fighting death and trying to resist. And there is a superb moment when Komme looks left and right quickly and wobbles a little before crouching down and putting her hands over her ears. And it's kind of like she's hearing things she knows aren't real. And I really love that as well. And it happens again later when Death is walking behind Rudolph in another scene, that Rudolph looks as though he thinks he hears something that's not really there. And then there is the moment when he's talking to Elisabeth and trying to ask her to help him. And there's just so much desperation in that moment. And then it's as though he goes completely numb for a second before the death dance happens, and just it touches all my
the way she says the line "Mo koreijo ikiru ate mo nai," she just looks like she's dead inside.
Let's talk a little bit about Sophie as well, which is played by Izumo Aya. And she played Sophie
in the 96-97 Hoshigumi production.
Mm.
Yeah, and comparing like the Sophie in this version and the former, I like her performance in this one better than the Hoshigumi production. I think her Sophie has matured, and she has matured, and she is also a bit scarier, like a bit more scary. I mentioned in the previous episode that it's sort of like she's a fun Sophie, like, well, she's not trying to be fun, you know, but she's very over the top, and you're like, I sort of like, she's more fun to me than scary, but in this production she comes across as more scary, I think, and I really like that. And her singing is like great.
I feel as though this Sophie is more in control. Fab voice, fab style. She looks really good. A little shouty on occasion still. Really excited about the baby, which I like. And then in the second act, she did not age well. The makeup, I know that it's supposed to be more intense in theatre in order to be seen from far away. So maybe that's what they were going for, but it was a bit too much. It didn't look like a natural aging process. So they could have gone a bit lighter on that. But other than that, I thought it was a good performance. What about you, Anna?
I love her, like Ismaya generally, and she has a superb voice. And I think this Sophie is a little bit more human-like than the one from 96, which is like a robot murderer machine or something. No, this one is, you can feel that she's human, but still scary and in control, and yeah, and the makeup has improved. Definitely.
All right, let's talk about the finale, because I know that you guys love this finale.
Yay!
Yes.
I don't know where to start. Like well, we can start with the like Death's solo number, maybe. And I think it's Saigo no Dansu. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Yes, thank you. And like this number is pretty, like, except for this song being used, obviously, it is quite similar to what I refer to as the white number in the Hoshigumi production, which I love, which also features Death and all the Musumiyaku in white dresses, and I'm not sure if these are the same dresses in the 98 production, but they're very like similar, so it might be those white dresses. But instead of Watashi Dake ni, they have Death singing Saigo no Dansu, which is great. I approve of every like solo given to Sunko.
Yes.
So
I'm just gonna say it's
Yes.
exactly the same song, I think, that Ichiro Maki sang in the first one. Like
Oh,
it's a
okay.
mix between Saigo no Dansu and also like the first Tenshi no Uta wa Yorokobi. It's like a little mix of those two songs.
I prefer maybe the white number from Hoshigumi production better, but I really like Sunko singing, so I don't really complain that he gave her a solo song. So that is great. And she looks great as well, Sunko. She has this like purple outfit with silver buttons, and she looks amazing. Yeah. So it's a good number. It's a good number, I think. Anna, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I've just mostly written Deadly Smecks.
Sums it up pretty well, I'd say.
I love the singing. Well, I think many of them do. I think all of them do. I just love that they wear the Toto wig, and it looks great with the clothes she wears, and visually it's really nice. And I just want to say also that Aitoshi no Rondo with Wow, the first song of the finale, is also really good. She does it with this warm smile, and yeah, I like it.
And then I guess the Otokuyaku dance is also one of my favorite numbers, and it's what it is. It's amazing, of course. In this, I'm not super keen on the color combinations they've given them in for their outfits, but I mean they could wear pretty much anything, and I'd still love this number to bits. I think so. It doesn't really matter, and Sunko looks great. Yeah.
Sunko always looks great. I don't know if she can not look fantastic.
I'll just throw it in there that, again, the Otogaku dance is my life. No, but I love, and I also love the way when they, in the 96 production, they Ichinomaki goes like diagonally up the stairs when she leaves the stage. But this happens, I think, in every version of this dance, is that when Lucchini and Franz and Rudolf come down to dance with the Otogekos on the stairs, they just go down to on like one knee in different directions to let them come through, and it looks so nice. Just wanted to say it because it's awesome. So yes, about the duet dance, I'm not sure why I love this so much. It might be partially because I think she's so adorable without a wig as well, Zunko, when her ears stick out. It's so adorable, and I love the arrangement of Aito Shinorondo that they have in. It's so sexy and like low key. I love how it begins with the. I think is it piano? The low notes that. I think that's great, and I'm not crazy about the color choices they made for that duet dance, but I just love it. I think it's really sexy and
very jazzy.
Very jazzy.
Yeah.
And
this is like the most experimental arrangement for a duet dance, I think, so far. Like as for the Elisabeth finales.
Yeah, and then just small things like this one kick they do like simultaneously that I also like. I just love that that kick, and the way in the end that she reaches the hand really nonchalantly to Hano-samari, and she looks the other way, and Hano-samari grabs the hand and she just pulls it to her, and then she just snuggles like into her cheek neck area. That's also just I love it. It's adorable.
My favorite bit, like my absolute favorite bit of the finale, is when Zunko walks down the staircase and she looks so beautiful in the hane, like the feathers. They are shaped like wings, and they are black and floofy, and she is gorgeous, and then she smiles, and it's just the best thing. She's so cute and adorable, and everything about the world is happiness and death.
I completely agree. I think she looks great in the parade number when she comes down, and the wings are the complete opposite of Ichinomaki's wings, white angel wings. These are completely pitch black, fluffy, feathery wings, and she looks great. And then the last smile that just breaks all the tautness of her, like the death. It just makes her completely super adorable as soon as she smiles, and you just know that the show is over.
Do you guys have any final comments?
I think I forgot to say one thing though. I just want to throw that in. It's the kiss at the end of the show before they go into the realm of death or wherever. I think that is adorable. The way it's so sweet, and Zunko grabs her face and really slowly leans in and just like savors the moment. Yeah, I felt I needed to say that, even though it's kind of out of place. So that's my last comment.
Anything from you, Aileen?
No, but just overall, it's a good production. It's a really good production. It's a super solid soundtrack. So if you're just listening to, like, if you're out to just listen to songs, I think the Saragumin production is really, really, really good.
This is the one to choose.
Yeah, Growly Zunko hits everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing.
All right. So that's everything from Anna, Elin, and me. Don't miss the next episode when we will be talking about the 2002 Hanagumi show starring Haru no Sumire and Otorire. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you also to the Arcanum String Quartet for their wonderful arrangement of Sumire no Hana Saku Koro.